Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Coach Gene Clemens, and I have a giant issue. We all know what happened on Sunday. The Giants were able to get a victory over a Washington Commanders team, a really tough Washington Commanders team that they tied with just 2 weeks ago. It was big because it continues to keep the playoff hopes alive for the G-men. I don't know about fans out there, but I know as a writer for the Giants, there's nothing better than winning, and there's nothing better than playoff football, regardless of who you root for. So I was happy to see the Giants get a win. I was really more excited to see the coming out party of one Kayvon Thibodeaux because he has been someone who has not escaped scrutiny all season. I never understood why. Real ones never understood why. And so I decided I was going to bring another real one on with me. And that is my main man, Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. You see him everywhere, CBS Sports. Check him out all over. Make sure that you follow the Football Game Plan Network on YouTube. Check out the comments. I'll have him added on there as well. Make sure you go and give him a like and subscribe on there. Emory, thank you for joining me, man.
Always a pleasure, Gene. And like you said, it's always good to talk shop with another guy that sees it from a X's and O's standpoint perspective.
Absolutely. And I just want to jump right into it because when you take a guy with a with a top 5 pick, you're not taking a guy to just be another guy. You're taking a difference maker. You're taking a playmaker, somebody who can really change the dynamics of an offense or a defense. We had been talking, and I know that we had talked about the impact that we could see Thibodeaux making that wasn't going to show up on the stat sheet. Do you think that this is just that next step of what we've been seeing on a week in, week out basis from him?
Yeah, and I think now we're going to start to see it, even though it's this later in the season. We got to remember he was hurt for the majority part of the beginning part of the year, coming off the preseason injury. So now we're going to start to see on the back end of this schedule, teams are going to have to game plan for Kayvon Thibodeaux. And the fact that he's able to play both sides, we saw him drop in coverage, hold his own. He's super athletic. He's aware versus the run. Rarely was he fooled. At times, there were a couple of plays where he got a little bit on zone reads, but that's going to happen. But for the most part, he was diagnosing it and making the play, let alone what he was doing in one-on-one situations and getting after the quarterback. So I feel like now, coming off this game, he's going to be a significant part of the Giants' game plan in terms of how you're going to attack the Giants and how you're going to block up the Giants, which should open things up for all the other guys that they have up front. Your Leonard Williams, your Dexter Lawrence, Ojulari on the other side. It's going to make this Giants defense better as a whole.
And you make a good point about the zone read, and I don't even think it was necessarily a getting fooled. I think that he understands like his athleticism. If you notice that whenever they would pull the ball, when he would come down hard, he wouldn't chase the quarterback. He would go flat down the line of scrimmage like it's taught, because he knew that somebody was going to eventually pull that guy up and make him cut back inside right to where Tibbs would be at. So I think he played. I think from a schematic standpoint, he played a great game. And as you mentioned, the athleticism that he's been showing, and the fact that he is now healthy. You saw the impact on the other side of Azeez being able to get in for a half sack. You see Dexter Lawrence getting inside for a half sack. You see the impact. And we know this, that turnovers are contagious, right? You see one, I remember, if you remember back when the Bears, when Peanut Tillman was punching the ball out, all of a sudden, everybody on the Bears wanted to get a strip sack. And it was infectious. And you could see that on Sunday. Kayvon got that strip sack, picked up the ball, ran it in for a touchdown, and it just made everybody else start hunting. It made everybody else want to get in there and get their own pound of flesh. And you could see that impact. They were able to get sacks in the first matchup. So it's not as if, I believe they took them down 5 times in the first matchup. So it wasn't as if it was just a sack. It was the fact that he went in with the intention of trying to strip the ball. Clearly, that was his intention. He was trying to get the ball out. He got the ball out, had the awareness to see the ball, the athleticism to get to the ball, pick it up, and get in the end zone. When we talk about from a defensive standpoint, hey, when we know our offense isn't exactly the most high octane offense in the league, we got to find ways to try to shorten the field for them, or in some cases, put the ball in the end zone for them. That's something you saw Kayvon do, and then we saw later on in the game when Aziz and Dexter Lawrence met in the backfield and got that fumble when they were on the 5-yard line late in the game, late in the game. I believe it was the second to last drive. That type of energy, from the defensive line is different than just, hey, we're going to make some sacks or we're going to make some tackles and keep you from running it. It really is one of those where people look like they're hunting out there instead of just going to try to make a play.
Yeah, everybody wants their name in the paper, so to speak. Everybody wants to have that film session, be something that's memorable for the play they made. Everybody is looking forward to making the play that could potentially change the game. If you have one guy on your team that's like that, like you talked about, harking back to the Chicago Bears days, when you have that one guy, like you said, everyone wants to be the next playmaker, and it just makes you a better defense. It makes you what people call an opportunistic defense. You see this manifest itself with the Jacksonville Jaguars and how everyone's making plays on that young athletic defense. Same thing with the Cowboys. You have Micah Parsons, but now you have Trayvon Diggs making plays, and now you have all these other guys that want to get into action and make a play. So Deron Bland, their young rookie, is making plays on the back end. So the Giants have a Kayvon Thibodeaux, and now you're getting an Ojulari to find ways to make plays. Lawrence starting to turn up the heat a little bit more. So, and you get a healthier Leonard Williams. So I feel like this is tailor-made to what Wink Martindale wanted. And we're starting to see this team really start to play some good team football on that side, at least.
Well, yeah. And just getting back to Tibbs, because I want to give him his flowers for the day. I mean, it's not just the sack, right? It's not just the sack. It's the other pressures. Him being in the backfield. We had said for weeks, man, you know what? He just seems to always be around the quarterback, and no one pays attention to it because you don't get those in the stat book the same way, right? No one's looking at the pressures the same way that they're looking at the sack. But that it's pressures is actually a better statistic to judge whether or not a defensive end or an edge rusher is effective in the pass rushing, because sacks in some respect are kind of lucky, right? You're lucking the sacks a lot of times. And so to see the three pressures from Thibodeaux, one ends up in a sack, or excuse me, a fourth ends up in a sack. To see him then record 12 tackles from essentially, we can call him an outside linebacker, that's cool, but we all know he's a 9 technique, right? To see that come from a 9 technique, to be able to get double-digit tackles, you're talking about a motor on a guy that you're not seeing from every edge rusher. Like Von Miller isn't out there getting 12 tackles, in the game. That's not his job. His job is to hunt. He goes hunts. He does his job extremely well. He's one of the best to ever do it. You see that out of the TJ Watts of the world. TJ Watts are guys that get those 12, tackles. And when you can be compared to TJ Watt, you're doing something right.
Yeah, him playing well on both ends of defense was huge, because we're not just talking about, like you said, we're not talking about the sacks or, the amount of pressures. We're talking about how well he was playing the run. He was doing a lot against the run going away, a lot against the run coming toward him. In addition to what he was doing in terms of getting pressure and applying pressure and causing disruption. A lot of plays, we talked about the 12 tackles, we talked about the strip sack, fumble, score, but a lot of what he did is not on the stat sheet, and he was the most impactful defensive player on the field on either side of the field in that game. So it was just impressive to see a guy just truly dominant. That's why what led to my tweet after the game, just going back and digesting what we just watched. Like, this was a truly dominant performance.
Absolutely, and it's funny because I don't feel like that Giants Nation is talking enough about this performance. Like, there is nothing to be said about Daniel Jones last night. I don't care. There's nothing to be said about him. Like there's nothing. I thought Saquon played fantastic. There's nothing to be said about Saquon. What he did last night is what he does, right? Like, we don't have to celebrate Saquon for doing what he does. You give him 18 carries, he's going to get somewhere close to 100 yards, if not more than it. He's going to probably get in the end zone. That's a light day. It's light. What this man did on defense, you don't see that. You don't see that level of dominance. I stress this enough. I can't stress this enough. It's not just sacks. People have to open their mind to the idea of a guy who has an ability to rush the passer, play against the run, drop into coverage, and actually cover people. What I think was the best play of the game, obviously, was down there on the goal line. The man drops into coverage, quarterback scrambles, tries to get outside, tries to attack the line of scrimmage to get to the pylon. He comes down, goofy running and all. Done. No going forward. No reach the ball across. Right there on the 1 yard line. That saves the game. Not only did he score a touchdown to give the lead, to give them the lead that they have. If they don't have his touchdown, they don't have the lead. But then he keeps the points off the board. Because of that, they live to fight another day. They live to fight another day. And because of that, that's why they're sitting right now in a really good position to be in the playoffs if they just continue to take care of business. And this man is not being celebrated enough in the Giants world to me. Like, you got one, Giants. You got one. Like, you've been saying, hey, we haven't had this since OC and the boys. You got one. You wanted a conglomerate. You wanted a group of defensive linemen that were dynamic enough to rival what you had with OC and Tuck and Michael Strahan. You've got that. Like, what else are you looking for? Start celebrating this unit right now. I'm tired of hearing about, we don't have receivers. You can't have everything. You can't have everything, right? Like, at some point, Giants fans are going to have to decide what they want, because you can't sign everybody. So if it's me, and I'm saying I have a chance to have Azeez, Kayvon, Dexter Lawrence, and Leonard Williams as the anchor of my defense for the next 4 years, because there's no need to look beyond that. But for the next 4 years, we're gonna have to take our chances in the draft on getting these wide receivers, my guy. We're not spending no free agent money on wide receivers no more. Get that out of here. There's just way too many talented people coming, from college. But to have a guy like Thibodeaux that could take the game over, when we both know how ridiculously talented Leonard Williams is inside. The fact that Leonard Williams can now, we can leave Leonard Williams alone about getting sacks. He's going to be more dynamic because he's an all-around interior lineman, whereas Kayvon is an all-around outside edge rusher. Like, that's the best of both worlds. And then you get Dexter Lawrence to now just be what Dexter Lawrence should have always been, which is a dominant one technique, right? A dominant one technique inside. Just to add this in, we've seen Kayvon get talked about, and there's been a lot of scrutiny on Kayvon because he's different, right? He's different. What I want to talk about is this man's running style. What is going on? Why does this dude, the most athletic, unathletic looking guy in a pair of pants that I've ever, why does it look like this dude has a diaper that needs to get changed on when he's out there running? What's going on with that?
Now, if you see Kayvon, and if you see photos of Kayvon from 3 different types, you see him from the neck up, or from the waist down, or in sweats. He looks like he could be 3 different people. If you just see him from the neck up, you think he's 6'5", 300 pounds. You think he's built like Leonard Williams. If you see him from the waist down, you think, oh, that's a receiver, right?
Yeah.
And if you
Top
see
one
him,
or two.
right, he never looks like how you think he's supposed to look. And I remember noticing that twice, because once I saw him, I was able to sit down with him at the combine. So all right, because the combine you got on sweats, so he kind of fills out his frame. But then when we got the Giants camp, I was like, wow, he looks kind of thin. He looks narrow. It's almost like his head is not a part of his body. But it'll be fascinating to see though how he transforms his body with a full NFL offseason and not have to go on that traveling circuit. A lot of people are just trying to cut weight to look their best and run their fastest during draft cycle. We'll see if he's able to put on good weight, and hopefully in 2023 he's able to fill out his uniform, because everything looks big on him, like the jersey, the pants. He just doesn't look the part in the equipment.
It's crazy. Like in a photo shoot, he looks great, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the photo shoot, you're like, yo, that dude's a monster. Then you're out there and you see him at practice and you're like, he doesn't look like
a Oregon uniform than he did in the uniform.
I'm with you. I actually do believe that he's a year away, or an off season in a weight room away from really showing you mofos what he's all about. Like he goes in there and he adds that good weight. He adds in that grown man strength that you start to get around 24, 25 years old. When he starts adding that stuff in, that NFL supplements that they get you on, that the lifestyle where you don't have to worry about going to classes, or like, it's just a different world. I think the best is yet to come for him in that. I just can't get out of my mind every time I watch him running, his pants always like they're going to fall down. Like the crotch is never as high as it's supposed to be. It sits like he's sagging, but I don't see, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's up at the waist like it's supposed to be, but it just doesn't fill out. I'm like, why does he always look like that? He almost looks like, it's almost like Bobby Boucher-ish, right, on the end. And it's not a good look. And I laugh about it, because if you can move like that, looking like that, that says a lot. I want to get you out of here on this. The Giants decided to go offensive tackle with the 7th pick. They decided to go with Evan Neal. I had thought, hey, this is a great place for Cross. You need a pass protector. He's the best pass protector in the draft. If y'all don't know, all you gotta do is look in the football game plan 2022 draft guide. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. In my opinion, Cross, best pass protector in the draft. Out of the 3 tackles that everybody said were the premier tackles, I thought that was a way that the Giants could have gone. I thought the Giants could have traded that pick down to later in the first round, got Linderbaum at center to shore up the center position, which would have helped them, and maybe address tackle in some other kind of way, maybe a second round pick on a guy. They went with Neal, and I said that I thought Neal had the highest upside of all of the tackles, because he was still raw at the tackle position after being at Alabama, where they kind of move you around, throughout your career, and you kind of earn yourself into that tackle position after whoever the next first round draft pick is gets to leave. But it's been a struggle for him early on, especially in the pass block. And I think run blocking is going to be fine. He gets his body on you. He's moving you out the way. Like, he's a monster there. So let's give him his props there. He's a monster there. But when it comes to being able to pass set and move fast enough to address speed rushers specifically, he struggled a lot with that. Do you think that's something that he's going to be able to fix and get better in the offseason? Or do you think that this might just be an Achilles heel for him where it's going to bring into question, was he worth a top 10 pick?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because if you're that dominant in the run game, which he has been, it makes you worth the top 10 pick. You may even see the Giants try to kick him inside at right guard and bring in another tackle. And now you have the best of both worlds because you have the run game dominance from him. He'll be protected on his right side with the tackle. And now you have three legitimate studs up front. And you kind of saw a little bit of this in training camp. I remember when it was the first day of pads and you had Kayvon Thibodeaux in one-on-ones going up against Andrew Thomas, stonewalled. He couldn't, he wasn't even getting the pressure. He was just stonewalled. His next rep was on the other side against Neal. Boom.
Fly by.
So it's like, wow, is it Neal or is it Kayvon? And as we got into the preseason and in the games, we started to see it was Neal. And so I think the Giants are going to have to ask themselves, are we going to hope that he gets it up to speed to his potential in that regard? Or are we just going to be relegated to the fact that, hey, man, let's lean into where he's great at and let's get someone opposite of him. And now we'll have strength at the tackles, strength on the inside, and we'll be able to focus our attention on center. If Nick Gates gets healthy enough to get back into what he was prior to the injury. So I feel like that answer is I think we're gonna find that answer out with how they attack this offseason.
I think you bring up a great point. Who was the guy who the Giants had? He was playing tackle. They called him a bust.
It was Eric Flowers.
They called him a bust. He goes over and starts playing guard, ends up being a really productive guard. They never even thought about moving him from tackle to guard with the Giants. Never even occurred to them, hey, maybe we should just not put this guy at tackle. They just called him a bust and got him out of there and wasted a draft pick. We got to start seeing these front offices be more elaborate, or be more elastic in how they draft people. Hey, this is how we envision using him, but if he can't do this, then he should be able to do that. That's what I mean by elasticity. I heard people talking about Darnay Holmes last night and that he was struggling in coverage, and I went, do you guys not know how difficult it is to play the nickel slot in the NFL? It's the most difficult position in all of defensive backdom. It's not the number one on the outside. Like, that's what I don't think people realize. That number one on the outside, you got the sideline to help you. You've got all of the other defenders on the inside to help you. As the nickel guy in the slot, they have the entire field to cover. You don't know if it's left or right or in or out or up or down. You just have to keep fighting. And to his credit, he kept fighting and keep fighting. I heard people talking, and I go back and I'm looking. I'm like, did I see him just getting torched for touchdown after touchdown after touchdown? He scored 12 points. Like, what are we talking about? Giants fans, I love you guys, man. I love you guys, but y'all got to chill out on these people, man. Hey, Darnay Holmes, I love you, man. You did a fantastic job last night. Them boys are out. These are not just some dudes. These are not dudes. They got two of the best young wide receivers in the game out there. Like, what do y'all want this man to do? It's crazy to me. It's nuts when you think about it from the standpoint that they gave up 12 points and people were out there acting like Darnay Holmes needed to get replaced. I was like, what are y'all talking about? It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Neal. I still think that he still has all of the upside, because we saw some struggles from Andrew Thomas in his rookie year. And as year two came about, off to the races. Same thing could be for Neal. I don't think he's as nimble as Thomas is, but I think his feet can get quicker than I've seen so far. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to progress that going forward. It's been a great time. Emory, I appreciate you joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, you got one. You wanted a guy, you got a guy. His name's Kayvon Thibodeaux. If he stays healthy, that's always the caveat that we have to give now, because there's just way too many injuries, and for some reason, there's just way too many injuries to the Giants, right? So if he stays healthy and if he keeps his head in the game, you've got a guy. You've got a guy, and you've already got Azeez, who's a good guy on the other side. Stop trying to make these guys get 15 and 16 sacks. You've already screwed this up. You already had some guys. You let them leave because you wanted them to get 15 sacks a season instead of being happy with 6 and 7 and everybody across the defensive line getting 6 and 7 and 8 sacks instead of one guy getting 15. But you got one. You've got interior D linemen. You've got edges. Bring another guy in at linebacker. Bring some more DBs in, and you've got the opportunity to have one of the best defenses in the league. I really believe that. You're not far away. You know what Coach Wink does. It was a great opportunity for us to see the coming out party of Kayvon Thibodeaux. You heard it from me. You heard it from Nazar over there. Make sure that you follow him at F-Ball Game Plan anywhere. Make sure that you subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network on YouTube. As always, thank you for following me. You can catch me on writing over at Giants Country. Catch me writing at The Athletic. Follow me anywhere on social media at Gene Clemens, and right here on my YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemens, you can follow at Coach Gene Clemens. Until next time, I've got a giant issue. What do you have?